Okay, so. Okay, good morning once again. And Chair, we will be ready to begin at 9.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the Lake County Planning Commission hearing for July 14th, 2022. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will begin with approval of the minutes from the June 23rd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. I've had a chance to review those. Has anyone else had a chance to review those?
Yes. I have not had a chance. I was not present at the meeting, and I will therefore not vote on this.
I'm in the same position as well. I didn't attend the meeting and haven't had the opportunity to review the minutes.
Commissioner Chavez or Commissioner Fields, if you guys have reviewed them.
Yes, I reviewed them, and I move to approve the minutes from the June 23rd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries for approval on the minutes. While we are waiting for our 9:05 item, we will open the floor for citizens' input. This is your chance to speak on anything that is not an agenda item. This would be the time to speak on it. Do we have any hands raised in the Zoom room?
Looking right now. And
I do not see any hands in the Zoom room.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. I'm showing a time of 9:02, and our first item will be brought up at 9:05.
I've got the first 5. Great, thank you, Sam.
Okay, time is now 9:05. We will begin with our first timed item. This is a public hearing on consideration of a rezone RZ 22-02 and a mitigated negative declaration IS 22-19. The Planning Commission will be asked to make a formal recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, which will occur during a later public hearing. The applicant, Daniel Sosa, is proposing a rezone to change two properties' zonings from CH, Highway Commercial, to C2, Service Commercial, and to amend the general plan designations. The property is developed with two existing buildings and a parking lot. No development is proposed in conjunction with this action. The project is located at 3774 and 3794 East Highway 20, Nice, California. APNs 032-181-02 and 032-181-03.
And legal notice has been determined on this matter.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners, and good morning, members of the public. Just a point of correction, there was some typos within the legal notice. The service commercial designation is not correct. It should be community commercial. So the proposed zoning would actually be community commercial. My apologies for that. I did correct the staff report and sent out the amended staff reports to the commissioners and to the applicant. Properties are located in Nice, 3774 and 3794 East Highway 20. They're currently developed with the Nice Market and Cafe. Applicant seeks to rezone from CHDR to C2DR. They actually carry the same general plan designation of community commercial, so no general plan amendment is required. There is a maximum of 4 general plan changes allowed in a calendar year. We're going to have to get clarification on whether it's calendar or fiscal year. However, this is the first of 2 hearings, and that would not stop the Planning Commission from making a recommendation. What it could do is it could cause us to have to wait if, in fact, we're at the limit for the 2022 calendar year, and we're unclear if the reference to the 4 per year is calendar or fiscal. So we're going to have to figure that out before we schedule the second hearing.
How will we determine that?
We're going to have to probably get a legal interpretation of it. I tried to do the research yesterday. The general plan is very clear in terms of 4 per year pertaining to general plan amendments, but what it's not clear on is what that means. So it doesn't specify, is it calendar year or fiscal year? So I talked to Johanna briefly this morning. Don't have a conclusive answer yet. But again, it wouldn't affect the Planning Commission's ability to make a recommendation. So we're good to go on that. Okay, so the 2 properties combined are 0.64 acres, just over half an acre. They indicated they're developed with a cafe, a market, and a paved parking lot. The goal of the applicant is to sell retail cannabis, which is not permitted in the CH zone. It is, however, permitted in the C2 zone. And adjacent to the property is other C2 zoned properties, so this would not be regarded as a spot rezone, which are not prohibited, by the way, they're just not encouraged. Community commercial, this is what the general plan has to say about it. It's intended for medium intensity uses like restaurants, markets, that type of retail use. Commercial cannabis sales are an outright permitted use, so we don't have the ability to regulate where they go as long as they're properly zoned. There are several policies within the general plan that directly or indirectly apply to this rezone. I should point out that we have received 3 letters of opposition to this, and primarily it's from residences that are in the yellow R1 zoning district that's around it to the south and east. That's not correct. It's not in the Kelseyville area plan. I'm going to skip that slide. There we go. Upper Lake Nice area plan. There's nothing conflicting with the Nice Upper Lake area plan pertaining to this rezone, so it's basically silent on rezoning land. Zoning ordinance, Article 19 is the governing ordinance if the zone change is successful. And again, I indicated that retail sales of commercial cannabis are an outright use. That's under subsection O. There's a maximum size limit. The structures are well below that 5,000 square foot size limit, so there's no potentially conflicting buildings that are on the site. There are no separation requirements for retail cannabis from other uses, particularly those uses that attract youths. Whether that's a mistake in our code or not is something that the Cannabis Task Force is going to need to evaluate. Article 47 dictates rezones. That's within our zoning ordinance. It essentially requires a recommendation from the Planning Commission and ultimately a decision by the Board of Supervisors. CEQA, we initially were going to categorically exempt this because there's no development proposed. However, the decision was made internally to the Planning Department that better to err on the side of caution, so we did write a CEQA evaluation, and the result was that no mitigation measures were required because no development's occurring. This was uploaded to the state clearinghouse. There were no adverse comments that staff received from any of the notified state agencies. Consequently, we're recommending that the initial study IS 22-19 be adopted, and the result of that from the commission would be a recommendation for adoption, and that the commissioners recommend that the board approve rezone 22-02, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Eric. Any commissioners have any questions for staff before we open it up for public comment?
I do have one quick question, Eric.
Yep.
So what we are being asked to consider today is simply the change, the rezone, and what is before us is silent on the future use, which in this case sounds like a dispensary. But we are not passing judgment on a dispensary today.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner Hess. Any other commissioners before I open it up for public comment? Okay. That being said, we will go ahead and open up this item for discussion. This is the time that anybody would like to speak on this item. You're welcome to approach the podium, whether you're in opposition or in favor, or you have any questions. Good morning. When you get up here, just make sure you state your first and last name, okay?
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Daniel Sosa. I am the applicant. I just want to thank you all for your time and consideration of this rezone, and I look forward to completing it and obtaining the permits and operating a really responsible business that will be a positive impact on the community and on Lake County. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, any hands in the Zoom room?
I do not see any hands in the Zoom room.
Okay. All right, so if no one else wishes to speak on this item, and I do not have any hands in the Zoom room, I will officially close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion for a possible motion.
I have a question for the applicant, if that's all right. What's the current use of the building? Could you describe it?
If you can come up to the podium for us, please, and just answer that.
Sure.
And your name one more time.
My name is Daniel Sosa. It's a market. It's like a convenience store type of.
Mini Mart.
Yeah.
Do you sell alcohol at that?
I don't own. I don't operate it currently.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are you the owner of the property?
No, but I intend to be.
Okay.
Are you in escrow?
Oh, I
Yes.
see.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if this is relevant to today's issue, but were you planning to do a dispensary that sells only cannabis, or would you retain the current use?
Pretty much only can. I mean, I haven't figured out my exact business
Business.
model, but yeah, the intention is to sell retail cannabis. Yeah.
And our focus today is on the rezone for the land and the use, and then go from there, right? So whatever the applicant chooses to do with it at that time is something that we will have to address later. Right now, what's on our plate is the rezone and consideration.
And one last question for the applicant. Have you reached out to the 3 individuals who had wrote letters of opposition? Has there been any contact with them or to address any concerns or any dialogue?
Not yet, no.
Okay, thank you.
And just so that, for the ones who can't hear out there, he did say no for that.
I have a question, Eric. So rezoning this property could you still do the same use as it is today?
Yes,
It would just change to allow for retail cannabis, right?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question, and I don't know if anyone here, probably Eric, can answer this. I'm trying to understand what the rules are regarding cannabis dispensaries. Somebody told me, can you verify this, that children under 18 are not allowed on properties where cannabis is sold? Is that correct?
I believe it's 21. The county wouldn't regulate that. That would come from the state. The state has a pretty tight lid, I guess, for lack of a better word, on who's allowed to be around cultivation and sales and active transactions, I guess, with cannabis.
I'm trying to understand the implications of this action. If we were to take it today, if we look at that map, then the neighborhood kids would not be allowed on that property if there was a dispensary. I just want to understand that.
I believe that's correct. I think it would preclude anybody under 21 going in that store. But again, the county wouldn't regulate that. That would come from the state.
Okay, but they're allowed on the property. They could walk across the parking lot
Oh, yeah.
on the way to the bus stop,
Sure.
for example.
Yeah, they
Okay.
just couldn't go into the business.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. And I do believe one of the other buildings that's on this that is not the market is currently vacant. Everything's kind of been, it's been ran as a business before. We are just focusing on the rezone right now, and then I just don't want to get ahead of ourselves on the cannabis thing, especially if this applicant is trying to get ahead and get all of his ducks in a row and focus on one thing at a time. This is his first step. So I don't have any other questions or comments.
Neither do I.
Madam Chair, without passing judgment on any future uses,
Sure.
I'm prepared to move forward with the narrow issue in front of us.
As well, I'd like to entertain the motion. I move that the Planning Commission find the rezone RZ 2022-02 applied for by Daniel Sosa on the property located at 3774 and 3794 East Highway 20 in East California, further described as APN 032-181-02 and 03. Recommend the adoption of mitigating declaration IS 22-19 by the Board of Supervisors based on the findings set forth in the staff report dated July 14, 2022.
All in favor?
I'll
Aye.
second.
Oh, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, move that the Planning Commission find that the rezone RZ 22-02 applied for by Daniel Sosa on property located at 3774 and 3794 East Highway 20 in East California, further described as APNs 032-181-02 and 03, does meet the requirements of Section 4722 and Article 19 of the Lake County zoning ordinance and that a recommendation of approval be provided by the Board of Supervisors for the rezone subject to findings listed in the staff report dated July 14, 2022.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there's a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination.
Lakeside Park.
Moving on to item number 2. It's a public hearing on consideration of a general plan conformity, file number GPC 22-02, and consider a categorical exemption CE 22-14 per SEQA section 15301. The applicant, County of Lake, is proposing verification of compliance with the property in the general plan designation of PL, public lands, which falls under the category of land designated as PF, public facilities.
Lakeside Park.
The project is located at 1985 Park Drive, Lakeport, California, APN 008-011-02. And please just be patient with us while we get staff's report up.
Okay, thank you.
Legal
Madam
notice
Chair.
and permit on this matter.
Thank you, Jim.
This is the first of 3 park improvement projects that we have before us. This particular park is Lakeside Park. It's located just north of Lakeport on the lake. Applicant is Public Services. They have funding for park improvements. And the park improvements include a new athletic field, a concessions building, a dog park, a shade structure, a gazebo, ball field lighting, a disc golf area, and minor support elements that would be also added to the park. It's a marginal aerial photo and site plan of the improvements that are proposed. So the purpose of a general plan of conformity is strictly to evaluate whether it complies and is consistent with the general plan. The general plan actually does have a section on public services that includes parks, and so the general plan of conformity for any public park improvements is almost kind of a given. In this case, they're going to be adding quite a few upgrades to the park, and staff is fully supportive of this general plan of conformity. Once the general plan of conformity is approved, the applicants can proceed with the park improvements. So the goal for today is to get a determination of whether the commission agrees that this proposal is consistent with the general plan. Here's an aerial photo showing the park. Different chapters within the general plan apply to parks, either directly or indirectly. There's a section on public facilities under Chapter 3, which is the land use chapter. And so we have identified the applicable part of Chapter 3 that applies to this proposal. Chapter 9, Open Space, Conservation, and Recreation, also addresses parks. And we found that it's compliant with Chapter 9. Other policies that apply to parks. It goes into funding, it goes into meeting changing recreational needs. The Lakeport Area Plan is the governing area plan for this park, and one objective does apply, and it talks about upgrading and expanding parks and recreational facilities. We were able to make the finding that it complies with the Lakeport Area Plan. We evaluated it to determine whether it would be categorically exempt from CEQA, and we found that it is in fact categorically exempt because it's a public project. And it's also of a scale that would not trigger any kind of need for a further CEQA evaluation. So we were able to categorically exempt it from CEQA. So our recommendation is to adopt categorical exemption CE 22-12 and for the Planning Commission to approve GPC 22-02 for Lakeside Park. And I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for your presentation, Eric. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
I do have some questions, if we can do public comment first, or if there's...
Absolutely. If there's no discussion for us for staff, I will go ahead and open up public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please feel free to do so. And Jim, I will ask if by chance there's any hands in the Zoom room.
Yeah, I do not have any hands in the Zoom room.
Okay, we will leave public comment open. Commissioner Brown, if you would like to go ahead.
Yeah, Eric, so I have a few questions in terms of the description of exactly what work is going to happen and the locations of the work. This property does, even though it's a public park, there's several areas adjacent that are significant historic sites. The St. Turbius Mission, and there's a cemetery, an unmarked cemetery right in the adjacent area across the street from the park. So I'm just not sure where the work is going to take place. I know the park was established before there was any strict or stringent cultural resource protection laws. And there are definitely areas where cultural soils are present in that park. And so in terms of it being exempt, how are we going to address any possible issues of cultural resources going forward?
I think it would be appropriate to put a condition in, because you can put conditions in that would require the county to actually coordinate with the culturally affiliated tribe. And that could occur before any work occurs. We've actually got that happening in the Upper Lake Park between the Habibital tribe and the county Public Services Department. And so if you have any concerns about potential conflicts, I would highly recommend you put a condition in requiring, at the least consultation, at the most coordination. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's something that, because the county's the applicant, ordinarily we can't recommend third-party contracts. However, because the county is the applicant, it wouldn't involve a third party. It would be directly between the county and the culturally affiliated tribe. I'm not quite sure which tribe is actually in this area, but it's easy enough to find out. I've got a map in my office. So I can leave it up to the Planning Commission. If you want to add that condition, we certainly can.
Yeah, I think it would be important in terms of notice. Did this go out to all the proper channels? It was noticed. Okay.
It did. It went out to the tribes. We didn't receive any letters of concern, but certain tribes are more proactive in contacting us. Mm-hmm. The Upper Lake tribe is extremely proactive. Middletown Rancheria is proactive. Big Valley tribe is proactive. Robinson Rancheria through the Upper Lake tribe, they've got an agreement between the two tribes. They're proactive through Robert Geary, who's Upper Lake. I don't remember which tribe is the affiliated tribe for Lakeport.
Okay.
But it's easy to find that out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would support such a condition if my colleague felt inclined to add such a condition.
I'm in support of that as well, as far as the conditions and, sensitivity training when they're out there and all of that would be great. It's a very precious piece of land out there, out in the park area.
Madam Chair, would you like us to add the typical condition that we usually add for cultural
Sensitivity, training, and I think that verbiage, if Commissioner Brown agrees, would be sufficient.
Yeah, I support that.
Okay.
Would you like me to add something requiring the county to reach out to the culturally affiliated tribe?
I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric. Any other discussion or questions for Eric?
I just had a comment. Eric, I think at the beginning of your presentation, you said that this park was north of Lakeport. I just want to clarify that if I'm understanding this right, the APN is not. It's actually 3 or 4 miles southeast of Lakeport, just to make sure everybody's clear on that. I'm also surprised it's included in the Lakeport area plan, but I think it's great.
If there's no further discussion, it is in my district. I'm very happy to see this go. I unfortunately cannot make a motion.
I will be happy to make a motion.
Please.
I move that the Planning Commission find and report that on the minimal site improvements associated with this project, that a categorical exemption to CEQA shall be adopted pursuant to CEQA Section 15301, and this project located at 1985 Park Drive, Lakeport, California, known as APN 008-01102, will not have a significant effect on the environment, with the findings listed in the staff report dated July 14th, 2022.
And as amended here today.
No, that'll be with,
With the conformity?
Second.
I think.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Planning Commission find and report that general plan conformity GPC 22-02 applied for by the Lake County Public Services Department for the property located at 1985 Park Drive, Lakeport, California, known as APN 008-01102, is in conformity with the Lake County General Plan, with the findings listed in the staff report and as amended today, July 14th, 2022.
A second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the following the Commission's final determination. Item number 3 is a public hearing on consideration of a general plan of conformity file number GPC 22-06 and consider a categorical exemption CE 22-21 per CEQA section 15301. The applicant, County of Lake, is proposing verification of compliance with the property of the general plan designation of PL, public lands, which falls under the category of land designated as PF, public facilities. The project is located at 255 North Main Street, Lakeport, California, APN 025-402-01.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next park is directly across from our building. This is kind of unusual because it's actually in the city of Lakeport. However, the county has jurisdiction over the park. And so we've got funding. Yeah, that's the right one. Oh.
Sam, it's not sharing the screen.
One moment, we're just trying to get our screen shared to the Zoom.
I don't know. It's county courthouse, GPC 2206. I can't see it, Sam. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right, so similarly to the last park improvements, this park improvement would affect our county courthouse museum park directly across Forbes. They want to add benches and tables, a small gathering area with a stage, accent lighting, a sculpture, walking trails, landscaping, interpretive panels, and walkway improvements.
Eric, I don't mean to interrupt you, just so that the public is aware. On our staff report, it says Courthouse Museum Park, and then on your slide, it says Library Park.
Sorry.
So is that the correction? It is the Courthouse Museum Park, the
Yes,
veterans?
it's an old
Okay.
PowerPoint. My apologies.
It's okay. We just wanted to get everybody on the same page. You can continue.
Yeah, it's County Courthouse Park.
Okay?
So again, this is a general plan of conformity. We have to make sure that the project does comply with the applicable portions of the general plan. As was the case with the Lakeside Park, there are certain chapters, primarily in Chapter 3 and Chapter 9, that relate to park improvements. We were able to make the finding that this project does comply with Chapters 3, land use, and Chapter 9, which includes recreational facilities. These are the different policies that apply to park improvements. Again, the Lakeport Area Plan would be the governing area plan here. And it's got one objective regarding upgrading and expanding parks and recreational facilities. We were able to make the finding that it does comply with the Lakeport Area Plan. Zoning ordinance, we were able to make the finding that it actually is under the jurisdiction of the city of Lakeport regarding zoning. It's zoned city, and so the zoning ordinance wouldn't apply, but this is a general plan of conformity, so the Planning Commission is tasked with consistency with the county general plan. CEQA, we were able to make the finding that the improvements would allow a categorical exemption, and that's under section 15301, which exempts improvements to public facilities from needing to undergo a CEQA review, given the particularly small scale of these improvements. Consequently, we're recommending that the Planning Commission adopt categorical exemption CE 2221 and approve GPC 2206 for the County Courthouse Museum Park. So that concludes my presentation, unless there are any questions.
And I just wanted, I didn't state that legal notice has been determined on this matter.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioners, any questions for staff before I open it up for public comment? Okay, pretty straightforward on this one. We will open up public comment for the chambers as well as the Zoom room.
And I do not have any hands in the Zoom room.
Thank you, Jim. All right. I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
Eric, do we have a budget, or what the budget is for these improvements?
I do not. We were not given that information for any of the park improvements. They may actually be different funding sources. I never asked the question, but it's not really relevant to the planning review, so we just didn't investigate the funding on it.
Right. I was just curious.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like a great project. It's not a big piece of land. I'm trying to envision an amphitheater and walking trails. And it would be nice if there were some design that the county was considering to get a sense of that, and how much land would be disturbed in the creation of an amphitheater and walking trails. Just a comment.
Director Darby?
Okay, so I have in the past received a schematic plan from Public Services, and the area that's going to be disturbed is very minimal, and the monies in terms of the upgrades would come from a grant. So if there's something that you would like for us to retrieve, there is a plan that was submitted, a schematic.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm just having trouble with the jurisdictional issue. I'm not understanding it, but that is irrelevant. I mean, it seems to me it's in the city of Lakeport. It should be the city, but
I'm sorry. So from my understanding, I know that that was very confusing for me as well in the beginning, but because we have the jurisdiction in terms of the environmental review, and we're the lead agency, so we conduct the environmental review. However, the city is the ones that actually go through the review and the notifications to their constituents or the community. I don't know.
Thank you.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Please.
I move that the Planning Commission find and report that on the minimal site improvements associated with this project, that categorical exemption to CEQA shall be adopted pursuant to CEQA Section 15301, and that this project located at 255 North Main Street, Lakeport, California, known as APN 025-402-01, will not have a significant effect on the environment, with the findings listed in the staff report dated July 14th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I further move that the Planning Commission find and report that the general plan conformity GPC 22-02 applied for by the Lake County Public Services Department for the property located at 255 North Main Street, Lakeport, California, and known as APN 025-402-01, is in conformity with the Lake County General Plan with the findings listed in the staff report dated July 14th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Before we take up our number 4 item, it is 9:42. I feel like this is going to be a well-discussed topic on this agenda item, so I'm going to take a brief break for 5 minutes, and we will resume at 9:47. Thank you, and welcome back. It is 9:47. We will go ahead and dive right back in. Item number 4 is a hearing on consideration of a general plan amendment and rezone, file number GPAP 19-03 and RZ 19-03, and a mitigated negative declaration IS 19-43. The Planning Commission will be asked to make a formal recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. The applicant, Dennis de la Montaña, is requesting a rezoning and general plan amendment to change a 17.4 plus acre lot from R1, low-density residential, to RR, rural residential. No development is proposed in conjunction with this action. The project is located at 8255 Point Drive, Kelseyville, California, further described as APN 044-331-24.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Applicants applied for a rezone to a roughly 18-acre property that's located on the point that extends out to Clear Lake. The property itself does not abut Clear Lake, but it's close to it. The Buckingham Estates subdivision is below it, and they have a lot of upscale single-family dwellings. There, I believe, is an existing vineyard in between the lake and the property, which may or may not be relevant depending on your perspective of it. Applicant, this is kind of an unusual one. I'm recommending a very soft denial, and what I mean by that is, initially I wanted to recommend approval on it. However, there was a lot of opposition raised by the neighbors who were concerned about the potential for ag uses on that land. Some were concerned about vineyards and pesticides and things that are ordinarily associated with vineyards that may conflict with residential development. I was actually more concerned about the possibility of farm animals being brought onto that property. The prevailing wind direction is primarily from this direction to the north-northwest and blowing this direction, which is out towards the lake. So I guess to that extent, whatever odors are emanated, assuming a zone change to RR, would probably not, for the most part, be carried into the Buckingham Estates development. That's no guarantee that they won't be. It's just saying that, you know, the prevailing wind is usually from this direction. We received 15 letters of opposition. We also received, I think at last count, 5 emails in support, mostly from other landowners in the area that have agricultural uses on their property. So, to back up, the entire area, with one exception, is zoned R1, including this lot. And this lot is unusually encumbered. There's a deed restriction that prohibits further division of that land, and it also limits the house size and number to one dwelling up to 5,000 square feet. I'm not clear on whether the applicant has the ability to change that restriction, but for now the property is encumbered, and the applicant is looking for alternatives, alternative uses on the site. Part of the rationale behind rezoning the property is to create a fire break. And if there were a vineyard planted on that property, it would actually help by the removal of grass and other flammables that would otherwise be on the property. Otherwise, the applicant's going to be responsible for ongoing maintenance of a property that essentially can't really be developed. So that's a lot of the reason why the applicant has applied for a rezone. That, and I believe he has interests in planting the vineyard in that location. I don't know that for certain. There's no development plan that we have reviewed, but I do know that there is a lot of opposition and that the property is heavily encumbered and it can't be developed to its highest and best use given the zoning based on the encumbrances. So the general plan has certain policies that directly or indirectly relate to this request. I've put in red font, large lot residential development with small scale agricultural activities is appropriate. This is under rural residential. And the purpose behind highlighting that particular paragraph is just to show the Planning Commission that in fact rural residential is intended for dwellings and ag uses. R1 is not. And I've indicated about the neighborhood concerns that have been raised on this proposal. This is not in the Kelseyville area plan, it's in the Riviera area plan. This is an older PowerPoint that I created realizing after the fact that it was in the Riviera plan. Zoning ordinance conformance. Rural residential is Article 8, which allows one single-family dwelling. It also allows an ADU, although with the deed restriction, Mr. De La Montagne is encumbered as to what he can actually build out there. And it permits agricultural uses, including crop and tree farming, livestock grading, animal husbandry, apiaries, aviaries, except uses that are identified in sections 8.4 and 8.5. Article 47 pertains to zone changes. CEQA, we actually did an initial study on this project. Because there's no development proposed, it resulted in a negative declaration with no mitigation measures. But it was uploaded to the state. Notices were sent out to neighbors within 725 feet of the property. That's where we began to get opposition letters and emails to this proposal. A second notice was sent out prior to the hearing. We did not receive any new comments over the past several days that were opposed to it, but we did receive several that were supportive of it. So, given the evaluation and given the potential for conflict, this was a really tough call as far as the recommendation. Ultimately, I felt that the potential for conflict outweighed the potential for benefit. Thus, my recommendation is to not adopt initial study IS 19-43, and to not recommend approval of RZ 19-03. And just as a reminder, this is only the first of 2 hearings. Ultimately, this would have to go to the board. And so whatever recommendation the Planning Commission makes is what I would bring to the board. So it's your call.
Eric, is your recommendation based on the way the property is currently encumbered, or this more general reference you're making to conflict, and how are you defining conflict in that context?
Worst case scenario in my mind would be to have certain farm animals being raised on the property. Certain farm animals, having lived on farms, I know what certain farm animals smell like. And
But aren't we a right to farm county? I mean, and isn't it zoned for that purpose?
well, I guess that's the question. It's currently zoned R1, which is residential.
No, if a change were made.
Yeah.
Yes, it would allow vineyards, it would allow grazing, it would allow pigs, cows, goats, horses, additional farm animals, crops.
So is your recommendation based on the way the land is encumbered, as I asked, or these conflicts you're describing?
This is where it kind of gets murky in my mind, because personally I like living near vineyards. I live near a vineyard. Professionally, I can see how the neighbors may have a very valid point, depending on what's placed on the property. And if it's the wrong type of use, would it adversely affect the neighbors? I think there's potential for conflict there, yeah.
We're asked all the time to approve things that could potentially affect real estate prices, whether it's a cell phone tower, whether it's a cannabis grow in a particular area. Are those not conflicts as well?
Well, I think the Planning Commission is tasked with taking it on a case-by-case basis.
We have to.
I agree. So to answer your question, yes, there's others that have potential for conflict. Would that matter in your recommendation? I think that's something you're going to have to decide. You know, I had three options. I could either make no recommendation, which was kind of how I was wanting to go, but that's not the policy of our department. Our department requires the planner to make a recommendation. So then I looked at, all right, do I recommend denial or do I recommend approval? I said, if I recommend approval, it would essentially create an area within a surrounding area that's already established with higher-end single-family dwellings, and it would create what's obviously wanted to be used as a agricultural lot, mainly because of the encumbrance that limits the house to 5,000 square feet. So would that create the potential for a conflict? In my mind, it could. So having said that, I had a hard time with the denial recommendation myself, just so you know. So.
Thank you.
I have a question. And I should know this, but I don't, and I need to know. The R1B3 low-density residential dash frozen, what does that mean?
It prohibits further division below a certain size.
Okay, and does that prohibit agricultural activities? I mean,
Well, yes and no. I mean, there's some provision for agricultural activities which are, I think, limited to horses. And for each 20,000 square feet of land you have, I don't have my zoning ordinance, I'd have to verify this, but my recollection is that for each 20,000 square feet of R1 land, you can have one horse. So 18 acres is about 36 horses.
well,
In rough horse units, yeah.
I have some comments, but I'd like to hear from the public first. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Let's go ahead and open public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone wishing to speak on this agenda item. We will have three minutes per comment. And Jim, we will get to the Zoom room after I handle whoever's in chambers. Good morning. Please be sure to state your first and last name.
Yes, good morning. I'm Bill Grudy. I'm the president of the Buckingham Homeowners Association.
Good morning.
And on June 26th, we held a community hearing on this subject at our board meeting. And so what I'm going to say reflects the consensus that we developed out of that meeting. While the property is not in Buckingham, as you mentioned, it is adjacent to it and of some concern. It was the consensus of both our board members and the people who were in the room at the time that we should oppose this change. There was some discussion of the increased traffic flow in the east and west lake corridors, but there was a larger concern with issues that arise when even small-scale agricultural activity occurs next to lots that are zoned for single-family use. We've had a history of issues that pertain to this in Buckingham on the so-called Walnut Orchard property, which on the map is that big section in the middle. When there were active walnut trees there, well, let me backtrack and say that that parcel is zoned R1, but grandfathered in for agricultural use until such time as it is subdivided. So there was a walnut orchard on the property, and there were a whole bunch of issues that caused problems for the residents around, including pesticide use, trafficking of farm equipment, and the ones we received the most complaints about were rodent activity there. So there's a real problem in our view, when you interface rural land or, in this case, agricultural development right next to the properties, residential properties. So the possibility of multiple units, of small-scale business activity, animals, moderate-scale farming, agricultural processing are concerned to us, and it also looks a little bit to my amateur eye as spot zoning. As I recall, there was a similar request made a number of years ago. I forget what zoning they applied for at the time, but I believe it was denied, and we would ask that it be denied this time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And before I get ahead of myself and I forget, there are green cards on the podium. If you could just grab one and fill that out, and you can leave it on the table after your comment or whatnot. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Hollenkamp, and I'm a resident of Buckingham.
We have to, yeah, a little bit. There you go.
Okay. My name is Barbara Hollenkamp, and I live in Buckingham Homes Association, and I'm on the board there. One of the things that concerns me is the applications seem to be very vague and leads a lot to be desired. It's open-ended to a lot of different things, and I don't think that's good. When you fill out an application at Lake County, or when I lived in San Mateo County, you have a number of questions to answer, a lot of things to fill out, and this seems very vague to me, and I just don't think, I don't want to say it's a NIMBY situation, but I don't think it's good for a residential area to have all of the traffic going up there that could develop into large agricultural situations, and so I disagree with having this passed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Odom. I reside on Peninsula Drive, which my property is adjacent to several pieces of property owned by Mr. De La Montagna, as well as the property that's in question for rezoning. I think what was already addressed by Mr. Porter was the fact that there is a plethora of modifications that can be made once this rezoning is if it's approved, which concerns me the most. Whatever there is, there hasn't been any identified plan that's been presented to anybody I know with respect to what the intention of the property owner is once rezoning may be considered. That said, it really doesn't matter, because if that property is sold, then the next person or the next owner that comes in is going to be able to take advantage of the variety of modifications that can be made based on that zoning change. And as it stands, and again, I'll just reference the fact that I saw that you can, based on the rezoning, you could actually put in a kennel. And my sarcasm is probably going to come out, but we don't need any more barking dogs in Buckingham. So that is probably the biggest concern I have. We don't know what the plan is going forward, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that if it's rezoned, all of the multitude of modifications can be made, and that backs up right to where I live. With respect to animal husbandry and all those things, I would tell you that the wind direction does blow in a variety of areas, and it tends to come right up through the residents that border that property. So we get that. The fact that there's additional noise and other issues that are associated with any of those modifications, up to and including the pesticides, the fertilizers, the fact that the present water situation for the Buckingham community doesn't provide for any large-scale or small-scale operations that could take place with respect to the agricultural. They're going to need to either drill wells or something to create the amount of volume of water necessary to actually create any kind of agricultural spot in that area. So all of that presents a tremendous amount of issues that I and my neighbors are all supportive of not permitting this rezone. Thank you.
Appreciate your comment. You guys are doing great on the on the timer today. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mara Eichelman, and I'm a local resident. I'm actually a neighbor across the street from the proposed area for rezoning. I'm also a real estate agent, and I have a little bit of knowledge as to what rezoning could do to a neighborhood or to a specific area. And I want to start with that because it is a huge concern. You know, right now, Buckingham is one of the most highly regarded neighborhoods in the whole county. And it's not just because of its high end, but it's because it's safety, because people feel like they can walk around with their families. I can be out on the easement, you know, on my little property, pushing my daughter around on her bike without being worried that she's going to get run over by somebody driving recklessly. But aside from that, to address Mr. John has his questions about what I interpreted from Eric Porter's decision based on conflict. It seems to me like the highest and best use of the land currently and for many years has been residential. And the conflict would be basically going against that, of which would be best and highest use of the land. Also, it could create a lot of nuisances. The odors would be the least of the issues that we as neighbors would experience. I can tell you that 5 of the neighbors that are on the bottom of Westlake Drive, our primary water source is well. And one of my neighbors, their well is only yielding 1 gallon per minute. So if you have somebody that comes in, say Mr. De La Montaña gets accepted, you know, and then he moves on. Somebody comes in and they have the best intentions of having a beautiful fire break or something for the community. It's going to be at cost of every single one of us depleting our water source. The other thing is, I understand it's costly to maintain a piece of land, but it's the cost of home ownership and the cost of land. You know, when you purchase this big size of land, rural land that you thought, you know, it's, yeah, we are in Lake County. Lake County is rural. We are a right to farm county, but not in your backyard. I'm really sure that you would not appreciate having pigs or horses or cows and the odors and pesticides and runoff, you know, and all the insects and all the rodents that would create in your backyard. We have an immense amount of land in the county that could be used for rural residential, and that is a huge, you know, plus. So it would be like us trying to take away part of the Red Hills AVA and turn it into condominiums, just because it suits us better and it's easier to develop. So for that reason, I would like to please ask you if there was to be an appeal to reconsider and just put this to sleep, because this is the second time that there has been a proposal to rezoning this parcel in the last like 10 years. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tony Brado. I work at Brado's Marina. I run the place. I've been there my whole life, which is directly adjacent to Mr. Montana's property. Like Mr. Odom said, the prevailing winds carry from the west predominantly, like 95% of the time. And if you look at a map, a parcel map, his field is right here and our marina is right next to it. So anything that was proposed with agriculture, anything would end up on our property. And we have over 300 boats stored at our facility. We've been there since 1964. My grandfather started it. So residential, I was also on the Riviera Area Plan Committee back in 2004. I was part of that committee. And like I said, it's all R1 there. We have a commercial exemption as well as Mr. Andre next to us, but everything else is R1. And anything other than that, agriculture, we are opposed to. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nancy Barber, and I live at 8180 Peninsula Drive, a property we just purchased in the last 2 years. And we were stunned when this application came up because I had done research to determine that that would always be open space and seen it had been denied in the past. The claim that no development of the site is contemplated, there is a current real estate website currently advertising the site for development, quote unquote. The description of property data below may have been provided by the homeowner or public records, and it says lot number 2 of 4 lots. This one is 2 acres, awesome properties, oak trees near marina, newly created, just split to make custom large building sites. Now, I can't say when that came out, who put it in, but it's disingenuous in the application to say no development's contemplated. Mr. Porter, I invite you to come to my back deck someday for barbecues. The wind comes directly from that property right at us. It's incredibly strong, so any pesticide, I'm not challenging you, but the wind does move around a lot. But since we've lived there, we love it because the wind brings the cooling breezes at night right through the house. So I'm not going to echo what everybody else here has said, but we're adamantly opposed to this. And the mixed use and the concern about focus on agriculture, yes, I agree. One of the reasons we want to live in Lake County, but not in my backyard. I bought the house not thinking that I would have an agricultural development behind me. And I did that on the premise of research of Lake County's position on the same property 10 years ago. And I believe this is maybe even the 3rd time this has come up. So to say that no development is contemplated, why make the change in the zoning if no changes are contemplated? Just asking. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Good morning.
Hi there, I'm James Robello. I am a resident of the area, and I'd like to comment on a couple things. Excuse me. The map that was shown on the video earlier and showed the wind direction, the initial map showed the wind direction as it actually flows through there. And your agent showed a different wind direction. The general wind direction does go to the east, but when it reaches land, as that land is part of the peninsula, the wind changes and takes the least resistance. The least resistance is going right through where that parcel is, straight over that parcel, funneling it down into where the marina and homes are. So just keep that in mind. All of us live in homes that have lots of restrictions on them. There's restrictions by the county, there's restrictions by our homeowners, and we can't have horses. Somebody said we could have horses. We can't have horses. They're not allowed under our homeowners, as far as I know. Bill could probably correct you. We live with those restrictions. We buy partly because of them, and we buy in Lake County because we want to be here and we like what it is. There's no need to change this. The parcel is, while it is zoned R1, is part of a very natural area of our area of Lake County. The whole peninsula there has some very beautiful area. There's animals out there, there's deer, but it's not overrun as it could be with cows and horses and even a vineyard, which is very nice. And some people grow a few grapes in their yard, but running a vineyard is a completely different thing. And when they talk about the pesticides that need to be used, the land preparation, the cycles that the vineyard goes through, the harvesting, the trimming, There's a lot of coming and going when that's happening. I don't care for it. So thank you.
Thank you. Before I go any further, whose phone or what device is making that noise? Okay, I'm not trying to call you out, but if you could please silence your phone, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, moving on, any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the Commission if I could have some additional time on the applicant. And there is a number of things that have been addressed that I think I probably need to respond to.
Okay, can you just state your name? I know you said you're the applicant. I just have to.
Dennis Della Montagna.
Good morning.
Good morning. So one of the things I'd like to state is that, you know, they've talked about this being an R1 property. This property was originally zoned agricultural, and it was farmed for many, many years. And the zoning change, I believe, happened in the early 2000s. We bought the property in 2006. It is zoned for, the entire property was 30 acres, a 12-acre piece and an 18-acre piece. We elected not to develop the property to its fullest extent. This property could support and was zoned to support through the new rezoning 60 homes. And we didn't want that area of the peninsula turned it into that high density. If you look at all the properties around it, they're probably acre or more in size. So we wanted to preserve the land. We think we are good stewards of the land, preserving it. We put a deed restriction, our sellers put a deed restrictions on it, so we could only develop part of the 18 acres to a one home site. Over the years, I did try about 8 years ago to rezone it to allow a vineyard, and we were denied. They were concerned about the vineyard being so close to the homes, even though the Agricultural Commission here said that it would be appropriate to have a vineyard there. About 3 years or 2 years ago, I got a call from CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE asked if they could use their property as a staging area in 2020 during the fires. The neighbors came to me also and said, hey, we wish you would reapply for rezoning. We'd love to see you have a vineyard in there or have some type of agriculture use that would potentially serve as a fire break. And so CAL FIRE also asked if they could use it as a staging area during a fire event. And we obviously agreed. In further discussions, we thought, well, that we'd have an incredible amount of community support if we were to go ahead and ask for rezoning, which would allow us to create a fire break in there by means of a vineyard. And we also would allow the community to use it as a temporary refuge area, which was recommended about CAL FIRE and Kelseyville Fire. They said that would be a great spot. As you know, there's only one way in and out of Buckingham, and if their fire came in from the south, that this would be a great refuge area for people. We have no intent to develop it into 60 homes, and so that's something that people, they love to see it a meadow, but the choice is 60 homes. Also, what probably people don't realize is we are not in a homeowners in the Buckingham or homeowners district. We're not part of Buckingham's homeowners association. We do not have those requirements. I can, in fact, put 36 horses on that property. I've just been told. And if people are complaining about noise and smells and stuff like that, you're going to have a significant amount of issues if I decide to put 36 homes in there to maintain that property to keep it fire maintained. So I think there's a number of issues here that probably need to be addressed in terms of misconceptions about the property. It will never. I've owned it for 15 years. As long as I have had it, it's not going to be developed to its full extent. The lady who addressed the fact that the property, we are being disingenuous that the property has been listed for sale. There's 2 parcels out there, a 12-acre parcel that was developed. Instead of into 24 lots, it was developed into 6, and one of those lots was listed for sale. That is not the subject of this rezoning. Also, if you look around the property, our property here, there's a large property to the north and to the east. Both of those are owned by a longtime family who have put them into a preservation zoning or preservation, I don't believe zoning, but a preservation restriction. And so those properties aren't going to be developed. This is the perfect property to have a transition between rural residential and rural residential. Again, I state that the property was already approved as a vineyard back in early 2000, and previous to that, it was in agricultural. And again, it is not in a homeowners association. In terms of water, the property is approved for wells. The previous ones we had, there's the 6 lots that we got approved on an adjacent property has approval for wells. We also have access to lake water if we want it through an easement. I think that's it. I didn't bring any letters from CAL FIRE or from Kelseyville Fire. They felt uncomfortable putting their thoughts in writing, but they thought that it would be a significant asset to the Buckingham community if we were to create a green belt there. Most of the devastating fires are from the north and from the east, so anything would come across the lake would come right through that section of Buckingham, right into Buckingham. And denial of this and not allowing us to further protect that property. I mean, I guess we could protect it with horses, but you guys will be hearing a lot of complaints on that. It's on everyone's. We have a golden opportunity to create a green space in Buckingham to create some fire safety too. Vineyards are not, they're not the cash crop that they once were, and they're surely not marijuana, and a vineyard there of 5 to 10 acres is not a very significant impact. And if there's many little small vineyards in Buckingham right now. I think that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions from the commissioners for the applicant? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, are there any hands in the Zoom room for public comment? We do? Okay. If we can try and give that a shot out in the Zoom room. Are you giving them permission to speak? Okay.
Sam? Who wants to speak? Oh, I got 2 of them.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. Unmute.
It's on lock.
Okay.
Motorcycle safety, if you can unmute and.
Yeah, sorry, that's the incorrect login information, but can you hear us?
Yes.
We can hear you. If you could just state your first and last name for us, please.
So my name is Jeff Drake, and I'm married within the family that is the former owner of that property, and we own a house beyond that field, and we also own the back hill that is adjacent to that field and borders the lake. So we are the former owners of that property, and we're also the ones who put those encumbrances on the property. And we support Dennis's movement for a vineyard. We've long envisioned a vineyard there, and our only purpose in creating those encumbrances and supporting the vineyard is to preserve the rural nature of that property. It is a small vineyard. I think aesthetically it would add to the peninsula, and that's why we're in favor of it. We don't imagine it to be a great burden to the community or the adjacent homeowners, but we do want to see that preserved as a rural property, and we do have restrictions on the number of houses that can be placed on that property. We hope that those remain steadfast, but the last thing we want to see is a large number of homes on that property. That we don't think is in the interest of that beautiful, beautiful piece of land, and we don't think that that's in the interest of the neighbors and the general peninsula in that area.
Oh, is that it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other hands in the Zoom room, Jim?
Yes, there's Blakely Hall.
Blakely Hall?
Hi, can you hear me?
Go ahead and you are unmuted and your name for the record.
Thank you. This is Blakely Hall speaking. And you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. So I live directly across from the property, one of the 5 homes that is also not part of the HOA, the Buckingham HOA. Like Nancy, we just recently purchased this property within the last 6 months. And like Nancy spoke as well, did our extensive research on the property. The community is a wonderful community. It's what drew us to the community. The density or the lack thereof, high density of homes is what drew us to the community. The safety, many reasons drew us to this community. And we did extensive research because we did see this hillside and we did understand that there had been past attempts to change the zoning, which had been squashed and cut down. There's also, we were aware of the encumbrances, the zoning and the encumbrances on the property, which Mr. De La Montana was definitely aware of those as well when he purchased his property in, I believe, 2006. I concur with a lot of what's been said in opposition to this rezoning. I do want to double down on the water concerns. Mara mentioned earlier, I am the neighbor that gets just over a gallon a minute from my well. The water is very limited in the area. We already are at a significant drought, as everyone here knows, in the lake. Marinas are actually shutting down because the lake levels are too low to support boating. And there is significant water concerns as a state. We are in an extreme drought. Any wells being drilled for this property that would be allowed to be drilled for this property would be directly against Gavin Newsom's executive order N-7-22, which currently is not allowing for new wells to be drilled. So I just want to push everyone to really think about what type of zoning this would be, what the intent of the use would be, both now and in the future, and how that would impact not just the odors and the pesticides and all of that, but also our water access as a community. And then lastly, I would just say, there was a note about the variety of items that would be approved under this rezoning. And so, it sounds like there's been a lot of conversation around vineyard, but as was noted previously, that does not mean that it will always be a vineyard. I can attest that the wind, like Chicago style wind, blows very strongly from that property directly to my property. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comment.
Madam Chair, we have no one else in the that's raised their hand in the Zoom room.
Okay, thank you, Sam. I'll take one last glance around chambers if anybody wishes to speak on this item. Okay, no other hands in the Zoom room. I will officially close public comment and bring it back to the commissioners for some discussion.
This is kind of the history of the West, what's happening here. We're having urban-rural interface and its conflict. And I have a lot of experience with this property. In fact, I just happen to have done the same thing that you did, Mr. Montana. Our family used to own a neighboring property out there and 12 acres. We looked at it, thought about putting in a vineyard. I do feel that it would be spot zoning if we were to change the zoning. And there's a lot of things that have been said here, and I think all of them are relevant, but my feeling is that I have to support my staff decision. There's a lot of fallow ag land in this county right now, and putting something in this spot it just seems like it's poor planning to me.
And just to kind of echo what you said, and the constituents as well, the zoning stays with the land. This isn't just something that, would go away or is easily changed, it stays with the property. This could have an impact for years to come. And I definitely keep that in mind as well, in the spot zoning. Any comments?
Yeah, I had a concern with the, like water, in this property having the right to take water from the lake. If they didn't want to do wells, that would be a possibility, like it was stated by the applicant. Traffic concerns as well. I drive through that area whenever I'm working there. And I mean, you see people walking their dogs and walking with their families, so I can see how this could change the traffic patterns there as well. And then obviously air pollutants like pesticides, nobody really cares to think about it because you can't see it, but it can have an effect on the population there. So these are all concerns that they're very important, and I just like to agree with the rest of the Planning Commission, or with the with Eric on his consideration for this.
And as far as the applicant and bringing up the fire breaks and all of that, I think that's a great idea. It might be something that the HOA maybe, you know, probably has a plan that they want to discuss, but I mean, using this as I can't put all the weight on something like that. But it is something that I'm sure the community out there is considered implementing, or at least having a plan. Any discussion, Commissioner Brown?
I just want to add that, not to make the same comments, I'm in agreement with staff and actually applaud you, Eric, for your recommendation, because we have to consider all the impacts moving forward, not just right now. And sometimes I feel like CEQA fails to do that when it comes to land use. And so the fact that we're considering what's happening, not just right now, but beyond, is important when we're talking about land use and what's going to happen in the future. So I support your recommendation, and will leave my comments at that.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, if anyone is prepared to make a motion?
Yeah, I am.
Floor is yours.
Can I just do the rezone? I move that the Planning Commission find that the general plan amendment GPAP 1903 applied for by Dennis de la Montagne on property located at 8255 Point Drive, Kelseyville, further described as APN 044-33124, does not meet the requirements of the general plan or the Riviera's area plan, and the recommendation of denial be provided to the Board of Supervisors for the subject to the findings listed subject to the findings listed in the staff report dated July 14th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries.
I move that the Planning Commission find the general plan amendment GPAP 1903 and rezone RZ 1903 applied for by Dennis de la Montagne on property located at 8255 Point Drive, Kelseyville, further described as APN 044-33124, does not recommend the adoption of the negative declaration IS 1943 by the Board of Supervisors based on the findings set forth in the staff report dated July 14th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the rezone RZ 1903 applied for by Dennis de la Montagne on property located at 8255 Point Drive, Kelseyville, further described as APN 044-33124, does not meet the requirements of the Lake County General Plan or the Riviera's Area Plan, and that a recommendation of denial be provided to the Board of Supervisors for the rezone, subject to the findings listed in the staff report dated July 14th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add that although this can be appealed, it has to go to the board for the final decision.
Oh, so my little end note there.
Well, an appeal would be redundant to the process. It's already got to go before them anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the clarification. And moving on to our number 5 item, it's a public hearing on consideration of general plan of conformity, file number GPC 21-03, and consider a categorical exemption CE 21-68 per SEQA section 15301. The applicant, County of Lake, is proposing verification of compliance of the property in the general plan designation of PF, public facilities, and RC, resource conservation. The project is located at 650 East, Highway 20, Upper Lake, California, APN 004-010-39. Legal determination.
Legal determination.
Thank you, Jim. Just bear with us while we get our PowerPoint project up and shared with you.
GPC.
Perfect. And then F5.
Getting old's fun, isn't it? Jeez. Thank you.
All right.
It is screen sharing.
Okay.
All right, so we're good for sharing?
Yes, we are screen shared, ready to go. Floor is yours.
Awesome. All right, we have the third and final general plan of conformity for park improvements. This particular one is the Upper Lake Park, located at 650 East Highway 20 in Upper Lake. Parcel number is listed. Owner is Lake County. Applicant is Lake County Public Services, who are responsible for park maintenance. File number is GPC 21-03 and categorical exemption 2168. Oops. Here's an aerial photo of the property. And again, you're tasked with verifying that this project, in fact, is consistent with the general plan, similarly to the other two general plan of conformities that were brought before you already. So they want to add a dog park, about an acre in size. They want to add a basketball court, and they want to install new outdoor lighting. Again, here's a bigger picture of the aerial photo. Casino is right next door to that lot. Here's the casino, and this is the park property. Again, chapters 3 and 9 of the general plan are the operative chapters. And so we were able to make the finding that chapter 3 is applicable. This subsection containing public facilities applies, and that the project is consistent with this subsection. Likewise, with chapter 9, we were able to make that finding that it's consistent with chapter 9, open space, conservation, and recreation under policies OSC 6.2, OSC 6.9, OSC 6.10. It's consistent with the Upper Lake Nice Area Plan, Objective 5.4.2, I think. Oh, Objective 5, under sub 4.2. We evaluated it for CEQA. It does qualify for a categorical exemption, similarly to the other two parks, under Section 15301, which exempts small improvement projects as well as public sector projects. Consequently, our recommendation is for the Planning Commission to adopt categorical exemption 21-68 And to approve General Plan of Conformity 21-03. Verify that that's the right number on that. It doesn't look right.
Yes, 21-03.
2103, okay. All right, and that concludes my presentation unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Eric. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Robert Gary. I'm the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for the Bamatopomo Upper Lake. And we actually responded to this, and under SB 18, we actually have the opportunity to address our concerns. We do have concerns because there are some archaeological sites that are close in proximity. There are also 2 bodies of water that are close. These are big indicators, I think, for us to make sure that the tribe is consulted with. I don't think we've gone into consultation. We've responded and said that we did. We did want to consult about this. So we're just making sure that, as far as CEQA, and not even that, but just SB 18 process is actually being followed with the tribe. We do have concerns, like I said, because there is information that, comes from the Chris Center about that area. And it says minimal ground disturbance, I know, but I know for us, any ground disturbance that happens, especially in construction, they'll tell us, okay, we're going to go down 1.5 feet, end up finding out we're going down 3 feet. And so I think because of the sensitivity of the area adjacent to it, right across from Highway 20, across from the casino, there's a site that's there. And there's actually a site that's within the APE that's there. So just from our research, we want to definitely make sure that SB 18 is actually followed, that the tribe has that ability to address those concerns and make sure that any agreement or anything that needs to happen, I think with the work that has to happen there, that the tribe is actually a part of that process. So as far as categorical exemptions, those are the things that really scare, I think, as far as from the tribal community's perspective, because basically that takes away our ability to be at the table to address our concerns. But there are concerns that are here. And so, like I said, we have responded to the notification, and we definitely want to be a part of this process of any kind of ground disturbance that's going to happen in that area.
Excellent. Thank you for your comment. And I do believe that we can we make that a condition for sure.
I was of the belief that there was already outreach between the Upper Lake Tribe and Public Services.
Yeah, I know they actually did an archaeological study. We were out there with them for that, but we haven't heard anything as far as like the plan, any kind of study that's actually happened out there. We just got the notification saying that, yeah, now they're trying for this categorical exemption, and it's like, whoa, we still have concerns. And so we just wasn't sure after that, that ARC study, what was happening, and then we get this. So just, there's a little bit of a hole, I think, in the process, and there's some information that we need to have filled, I think, for us, coming from the tribal perspective, that we need to know that, okay, well, yeah, this process is still happening, and yeah, we're going to schedule a consultation. So.
Okay.
Can I ask Mr. Geary a question?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
Would the tribe be satisfied with the condition of approval that required the county and the tribe to sit down and come to an agreement prior to ground disturbance?
Definitely. Definitely. I think if we can, collaboratively, I think work together to try to make sure everything's set in place before ground disturbance happens, that always makes the job a lot easier.
I don't think Public Services would object to that. And we do have the ability to require that because we're the applicant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Excellent. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay, so if we can just kind of get that little condition or amendment in there, that would be great. Jim, did you want to say something?
Yeah, there's nobody in the Zoom room.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, I'll take one last glance around and close public comment officially. Again, I do want to thank the public for their participation and staff, including the tribes here locally. Any other comments or questions for staff?
I just have a comment, and this is again Mr. Gary kind of addressed the concern, and this is something that's been ongoing with being a former TIPO, concerns when it comes from the cultural resource departments and the tribes, that the categorical exemption does limit the opportunity for any discussion. And as a commissioner, I'm not aware that the tribe even responded in stating that there's a concern. And so that does, when I look at the process, it does raise a lot of concern. And so I think being flexible is critical in doing this work and making sure that we are, as the county, doing our due diligence and reaching out and make sure that we're following all of the legal responsibilities when it comes to permitting projects. On a separate note, I've had another tribe in my district reach out to me with concerns, you know, and I just haven't been able to entertain that meeting with the Ocho-Dihi tribe. And so this is always the area we have to improve on. I want to say that. And so that we're moving in that direction is important. And I've had other cultural resource departments reach out, and I just haven't entertained those meetings. I know there's a tribe in every one of the districts, and so I'm hoping at some point that those invitations are also extended to the other commissioners with the concerns that are coming to me. So I just wanted that to be on the record.
Commissioner Brown, may I respond to that?
Yep.
I just want to let you know that I did have a meeting just yesterday with legal counsel Nicole Johnson, and we are working on a process or she advised me on a process in order to make sure that the tribes are definitely, we reach out to them with all projects that are coming through. So she assisted me with that yesterday, and I am formulating a process for in-house for the CDD to follow. So that is definitely something on our high priority list that will be taken care of.
Yeah, and definitely because it being a condition is us being flexible to do that, but it's the law that we respond and we consult, and so that has to be understood as well.
Absolutely, and we'll take care of it on our end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think there was a bit of a breakdown in communication between myself, Public Services, and the tribe, and I appreciate Mr. Geary clarifying where it currently stands. Like I said, I was of the belief that that had already been taken care of, and it hasn't been. And so with the condition, according to Mr. Geary, that can satisfy the Upper Lake concerns that the Upper Lake tribe has with that property. I do want to say that from my perspective, tribal interests are one of, if not the top priority that I look at as a planner, for a lot of reasons. It's just the right thing to do. So I think our staff cumulatively is of the same mind. And I think that that probably has not been the case in the past to the degree that we're acknowledging tribal interests and concerns now. So for whatever that's worth, that's kind of how I perceive it.
Thank you, Eric. So we are either looking for motion.
So if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain the motion.
Please.
Okay, I move that the Planning Commission find and report that on the minimal site improvements associated with this project that a categorical exemption to CEQA shall be adopted pursuant to CEQA, Section 15301, and that this project located at 650 East Highway 20, Upper Lake, California, and known as APN 004-010-39 will not have a significant effect on the environment, with the findings listed in staff report dated July 14, 2022.
Okay, we have a second.
Should that be as amended today regarding consultation? Or?
That's what I would have done, but
Yes,
I don't know.
yes, as amended. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, furthermore, I'd like to move that the Planning Commission find and report that general plan conformity to GPC 21-03 applied for by Lake County Public Services Department for the property located at 650 East Highway 20, Upper Lake, California, and known as APN 004-010-39, is in conformity with the Lake County General Plan with the findings listed in the staff report dated July 14, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Okay. Item number 6, public hearing on consideration of a 20-year extension for a mine, file number UMP 20-01, affecting use permit UP 00-06, and to consider categorical exemption CE 22-47 per CEQA section 15301. The applicant, Clear Lake Lava LLC, is requesting a 20-year extension for the continued use of site as a gravel quarry. The project is located at 13329 Point Lakeview Drive, Lower Lake, California, APNs 012-06-02, 03, 12, and 71. And I do believe there was a request for a continuance on this item.
That's correct. Yeah, we're requesting a continuation until August 11th.
Okay.
I move that we continue this item to August 11th.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for continuance on this item. All in favor?
Just a comment, Madam Chair. Was there a public comment that someone wanted to make on this issue?
There was.
I would support that being possible.
So we're not going to do the report, I believe, but if you'd like to speak on this item, we can open public comment.
Well, my name is Richard Knoll. I'm a planning consultant here in Lakeport. I represent Mr. Van Pelt, Clear Lake Lava. He asked me to attend this morning. He did request a continuance as he is not available this morning. We haven't discussed the August 11th date. I'm assuming that's going to work for him. We just saw that today, that was the requested date.
Okay.
I guess if it doesn't work, we'll need to come back then and request another continuance. But just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the clarification.
I think what we're trying to do is not waste more time, so it can always be kicked down the road again.
Yeah, so our motion on the floor is a continuance until August 11th, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
We have one more. Second. We have one more comment.
Oh.
Well, we can still discuss.
Sure, public comment's still open. On this agenda item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think with this, and because I know there's numerous categorical exemptions and the extension of these permits, there's a few of them, like kind of going down the line.
Sure.
So I think as far, Robert Gary, Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, Hub Emmental. One of the questions that we have, or I guess the concerns that we have as far as with this process, we received this notice July 5th, and we're asked to come here to respond to it. So really didn't get enough time, sufficient time to be able to deal with it. So, but one of the things that really makes this problematic is because we only had that 1 week. There are sites within numerous of these quarries. I can tell you right now that DNA River Rock has 9 archaeological sites that are within it. The Clear Lake Lava site that's actually in Lower Lake has actual 3 archaeological sites that are within it. All of them have bodies of water, and so I don't see how we can exempt from CEQA, these projects. And these are within the APN. A lot of my job is really consistent with things that are close to the APN, but these are actually within. And so those are concerns that I have with, all of these categorical exemptions, especially with bodies of water that literally run through the APN. How could we not be concerned about the environment and to make sure that there's assessments done to make sure that those bodies of water are kept clean? Because all of them actually enter into to Clear Lake. So these are our concerns, that I have with this. Like I said, just given enough time to be able to do the research. I've only had a week. ARC sites that are within the project APN, some of those areas are sacred landscapes. I'm from down in the southern part of the lake, in one of the quarries, the Red Rock quarry that's there. We still do. We go and we gather, but most of that hill's gone now. Eventually it'll be gone if this continues. for medicinal purposes. So there's things that are happening, and we're not looking at the full effect when the quarry continues to just kind of keep eating away at the environment. So if we take away this concern for CEQA, then we'll never know really what those impacts will be, not only to the landscape, but actually to the lake itself, because waterways run through them. So, this is, my concern. This is, what I'm bringing up here. I'm against, giving it a categorical exemption from CEQA. And as far as extending out the permit, for 20 years, a lot can happen in 20 years. Like I said, just within my time, the whole mountain's almost gone. And so those areas that I know that were, to my people that are from down there, those sacred areas, gathering areas, those are gone. And so this was all prior to CEQA even being established. And so we don't get that back. So just, my comment as far as, the CEQA exemption and those things to consider.
Thank you for your comment.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
My understanding for extensions is that no further expansion or impacts other than what had been previously evaluated would occur. And so my assumption had been, and I may be wrong about this, but that extensions didn't involve land movement over and above what had already been approved. And because of that, CEQA wouldn't directly apply because it had already been evaluated, theoretically anyway, when the original permit came through. So if we need to send out AB 52 notices on extensions, I think we need clarification on that. I'm certainly not opposed to it as a staff member, but I didn't realize that it might be necessary. So I'm not sure if that's something the Planning Commission would be comfortable weighing in on, or, if this is an internal discussion that I need to have with the director or what. I don't quite know where to bring this.
Eric, does the, when Calpine comes to us with a permit extension, is there an additional notification sent out in that context?
I've never done one, a mine extension before. These are the first three that I've encountered.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, a consistent policy across the board,
right.
I think, would make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Chair, I would like to hone in on that, if that's okay. Please. So I actually had the same concerns, and I thought that over a 20-year time that we should be looking and evaluating this from an environmental point of view. So I reached out to our SMARA staff person this morning, and I asked those exact same questions that Mr. Gary asked. What happens in 20 years? Where's the environmental impact report? And how can I support a 20-year extension? And why should I support a 20-year extension? And in addition, I was asking how much excavation of gravel has already been conducted and how much more do we have left? So I met with our staff person today, and he provided me, I also asked about the annual inspections because they're supposed to be inspected annually. So I felt a little more comfortable after discussing with Eric that because the EIR had already been approved for the 20 years and that because they weren't moving any dirt or doing anything else, that they had already been approved. And then I also obtained the notice of completion of inspections from the SMAR that comes from the Division of the Mines, Land Mines, I think is, yeah. But those were some of the same questions that I had. And I did go get the actual reports, the annual reports. So I have the last reports on what they're doing and what they're proposing to do. However, I did not have the time to see how much had already been excavated in terms of gravel and what is left. And I wasn't 100% sure that an extension of 20 years would be sufficient because what does that mean? Like, I didn't have the analysis to say, this is how much gravel they've already extracted, and this is the percentage they have left. And so maybe they don't need 20 years, maybe they need 2 years. So those answers have not been, I was not able to seek those answers. So if the board or the planning commissioners would provide additional time for me to kind of go into the mine extensions a little bit more before we extend them, that would be great. In terms of Calpines, there was an extension request maybe like 3 months or so ago, right? And they did go through a review process.
Yeah.
So how much time would you need, do you think?
I would say,
Is August 11th too soon?
yes, so maybe, what's the next meeting? August 25th, is that correct?
Yep.
August 25th. Let me dig a little bit more and provide more of analysis and look at the environmental impact, and then, of course, have the opportunity to reach out to the tribal groups.
Yeah.
That would be okay.
Are you speaking simply to this one agenda item, or?
All three.
Okay.
So there are like three on the agenda today.
Yeah, so I think for me, just hearing that, so as far as looking at the EIR and even that report, we've only been given a week and I haven't even looked at those documents. So, you know what I mean? So I did the research with the information and the data that we had. And so just, you know, that process in itself is problematic, I think. And so just making sure that, you know, we can have a full ability or have that full ability to be able to do the research, sit down, consult about it, and talk about these things. Like I said, you know, I think if anything, if there's going to be another permit that's going to be issued or an extension that needs to be issued, there needs to be some kind of EA, some kind of environmental assessment to show, okay, well, no, you know, it's not impacting, we're still good, right? But if we give it 20 years, and something happens within 5, they get an extra 15 more years to just continue to keep doing what they're doing. You know, and I'm not against development, I'm not against that, but I'm just making sure that those environmental concerns, especially here in Lake County, because now we're dealing with hydrilla and we're dealing with everything else that is a concern, you know, cyan toxins and those kind of things, doing what we can to try to preserve what we have. And so, you know, that's just a big, you know, concern for me. Like I said, you know, categorical exemptions is, from CEQA is, and then like not having the ability and the time to really do my research to get a really good determination on what needs to happen and our concerns.
Thank you.
And Ms. Chair, I would just also like to say that the tribal group should really get 30 days to actually review and comment.
Okay.
Procedural question.
This may affect the August 11th continuation date.
Okay.
Well, yes, I was going to suggest that I amend my motion. It's a procedural question. Unfortunately, Nicole is not here. Does anyone else have an idea what might be the appropriate action for me to take?
I just had a comment prior to a motion being made, and that is,
There is a motion on the floor, I believe.
well, we can discuss something even when there's a motion on the floor, is my understanding of the rules.
Yeah.
Just that, in terms of notifying, the gentlemen from Ready Mix have been sitting here all morning, and if the decision is suddenly to, in a blanket way, to treat all of those extensions the way we are going to treat them, which I support, it sure would be nice if these folks could get a phone call first thing in the morning and they wouldn't have to spend half of their workday here. That's true for the applicants as well as for people in the public.
I appreciate you.
But I'm in strong support
that.
of what we have been discussing
For
in
sure,
terms of
for sure.
CEQA and all of the rest.
And I do appreciate your guys' patience out there. You guys have been here all morning.
I think the Commissioner Hess has a really good point, but right now, we're talking about item 6, and I believe that...
It would actually apply to the next 3 items.
Okay, but the motion I made was for item 6 only. So I would like to amend my motion to, instead of August 11th, to a date to be determined.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for continuance for a date uncertain on this item. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. That's the only one, right?
It would also apply to items 7 and 8.
Okay, I wish legal was here. I will still go ahead and read the items, and we'll do we'll still do our procedural, correct? Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a point of order or a question regarding the motion that was just made. I don't know how you can continue a matter to a date uncertain, because now you have to renotice. And so a continuance to a date certain, you don't need to. But in this case, now you do.
I understand
So how do we know? I mean, what are we talking about here? We've actually been working on this for several years to try and resolve the extension. And by the way, there was an environmental review completed at the initial time that the Point Lakeview mine was approved. And there are annual inspections. There's a significant amount of file material available. But that's, sorry, I don't mean to digress here. I just wanted to make this point that, once we know what the date will be, I guess there'll need to be a county process for notification, so.
Well, I don't think that's a huge burden to renotice. And one of the reasons we're having this discussion was triggered by your client's decision to seek a continuance. And so it's up to us to determine whether the 11th is an actual window, the 25th, or a date uncertain. And if so, then we renotice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I'll still read the disclaimer, right? Yeah. Okay. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there is any disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms, applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Okay. Are we on item number 7? Thank you. Public hearing on consideration of a 20-year extension, file number UMP 2201 for an existing mine originally approved through the major use permit UP 03-04, and consider categorical exemption CE 22-36 per SEQA section 15301. The applicant, DNA River Rock LLC, is requesting a 20-year extension for an existing mine. The project is located at 8359 and 8400 South Highway 29, Lower Lake, California, APN 001-069-13 and 12.
And legal notice has been determined on this matter.
Thank you, Jim. And I do believe we'll be doing a continuation on this one as well. Okay, to a date uncertain. May I get...
Just a correction.
Sure.
It's APN 011 instead of 001.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Correction of APN 011-069-13 and 12.
And also, I would like to, are we going to open public comment or just continue the item?
Just continue the item.
Okay, I move to continue item number 7 to a date uncertain.
Second.
Motion and a second for continuance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think you need to read the disclaimer on that.
Okay. The note, the applicant. Okay. The applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Item number 8. Public hearing on consideration of a 20-year extension for a mine, file number UPX19-04, affecting use permit UMP 10-01, and consider categorical exemption CE 19-98 per SEQA section 15301. The applicant, Clear Lake Ready Mix, is requesting continued use of the site as a gravel quarry. The project is located at 12572 White Rock Canyon Road, Upper Lake, California, APN 022-099-06.
And legal notice has been determined on this matter.
Thank you.
I'd like to request that we hear this item.
Please.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Staff, do we have a presentation for this item?
Well, we do. We're recommending that it be continued to a date uncertain.
Okay.
For the same reasons.
Okay,
So it's up to you. If you want to hear the presentation, we can. Or if you want to wait until we're better prepared from a CEQA standpoint to bring this before your body.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make the decision that we won't see the report, but I will open it up for public comment, so that will give you a chance to speak.
Thank you.
So that being said,
Yep.
public comment is open. Please be sure to state your first and last name.
My name's Rick Thorne, and our project is very, very small compared to the other quarries you're speaking of. We have probably 3 or 4 acres total, and our mining process is pit style, to where we've already opened up a footprint of excavation site, and everything we do now is to establish a water table year-round for wildlife and vegetation. So there isn't any disturbing of, when you're talking about CEQA, I mean, what's there is there. I mean, everything we do now is below, it's already been, a footprint's been established for the excavation site. And we've finished one pond site, which is probably 1.5 acres or 2 acres, which we've planted the willows and reclaimed, we've got year-round water with wildlife and everything else. And the next pit we're in right now is adjacent to that, and it's the same thing, another acre or 2, but the actual footprint of that has been established, and everything now is digging 20 or 30, 40 feet into a hole that establishes year-round water, which is a little difficult in these drought times, but it works. So, and as far as archaeological issues, our permit actually covers that in one of its sections there, where, if we were to find anything that was even remotely archaeological, arrowheads, beads, maybe some charcoal or something, we're supposed to stop and notify the authorities. So, based on its size, I don't have any problem with contacting the local tribes to where we could do a site visit for them, so they feel comfortable with what's there in the small amount we're disturbing, which isn't any, it's not an open quarry where it's continually chopping away at land. We're just in a small little postage stamp size on a high terrace, steep hillside on one side, and the actual river flow, 1/8 or 1/4 mile away. So I really hate to be grouped into this CEQA issue when our size is minuscule compared to some of the other concerns you're speaking of. And if you had any questions, or if you have a site map, I believe in some of your stuff there, that I hate to be grouped into the same category when we're talking size. I understand, it could be 10 by 10, it could still be an issue, but the other quarries are large. Ours is 3 times, 4 times the size of your courthouse here, and that's it. And that footprint has already been established, so the disturbance is there.
Mm-hmm.
And everything now is just straight on down to establishing the water table. And I guess we have a pond adjacent to it, so I mean, it's a pretty good, gives you a good picture of what has been done and what's the next pond is going to look like when we're done with it. And I don't know if that changes your CEQA ideas, but I just don't like to be grouped into that large. When you say, it's not a quarry, it's a sand, we mine river on there. It's a pit, an open pit that's, I'm going to say the one we're in now is probably the size of your courthouse here.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't know why we're being grouped, and involving the local tribes is 100% fine with me. Like I say, we have equipment in there all the time, so for them to be there, while we're operating is probably not the best idea, but any scheduled time frame, they're welcome to come out and view what's going on and determine whether they think it's ever had or will have a archaeological area that's of importance. So I don't know what else I can add to the whole thing, or if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Can you foresee a possibility where you could establish contact with the relevant tribe or tribes?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's...
Just to finish my thought.
Sure.
And if you think you could do that before our second date in August, perhaps we could offer you some certainty in terms of a future hearing date, and you wouldn't necessarily be lumped in with the other kind of CEQA analysis. But having said that, is that an unfair imposition on you, Eric?
No, I don't believe so.
We can't
You- oh,
require
you-
that you do that or enter into a contract, but we certainly strongly urge you to do
Yeah,
so.
no, I mean, all it needs is some contact information, you know.
Well, the contact is sitting in the back of the room
Well,
right now.
Excuse me,
while you were talking, he
Madam
actually
Chair.
just handed him his
Gotcha.
business card, so I.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, I just don't believe we're in any kind of sensitive area, but I mean, I'm not an expert, and I have
No,
no
I'm just
problem.
trying to establish a date certain for you.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's,
possible
like
to
I said, I
do.
just, bottom line is, I don't like to be
Gavel.
grouped in with large quarries that way, and we're not even the same type of, it's not the same type of operation whatsoever.
Sure.
And I realize we're in the Upper Lake area, and there's all kinds of sensitive areas in the Upper Lake area, and
Would that work for the tribe as well, finding a date in end of August?
August 25th.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. So I have been advised by legal, if I'm correct from yesterday, that consultation is between the county staff and the tribal organizations, that the applicants are not supposed to reach out. But we can do I could be wrong, but I thought that's what I was advised yesterday. But we can reach out to the tribe and the applicant and coordinate. But if you would like to go ahead and set a date, then I will ensure that we do our due diligence behind the scenes and make sure that that we are prepared for the next meeting.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been many circumstances where the tribe has asked for something formal, and we have been advised that we can't enforce that, but we can encourage strong contact between the tribe in question and the applicant in question. That's always, as long as I've been a commissioner, that's been the guidance we've had.
And how does that affect our you know, the CEQA part of it? I mean, how does this whole process here affect our CEQA qualification or disqualification, you know, compared to what's been mentioned to the other quarries?
I think these are two different issues.
So a lot of that would be dependent upon the tribal consultation that we'd actually have with the tribe. If there were remains or anything out on their land that we would have to be considering. So it really depends on just what's out there.
Well,
If there is anything out there.
Well, I'm now confused about the legal standard. Is it the tribe that's having a consultation with the county, or is it the tribe having a consultation with the applicant?
With the county. So my understanding is that the county and the tribe has the consultation. That is my understanding. But I could be wrong. I could double check with legal, but I thought that that's what I have been advised and have in writing.
So the county will consult on the CEQA or any issue concerning permits. And then the tribe and the applicant are free to work out any other type of agreements.
Right.
If there's remains found, how those remains are going to be handled. If there's cultural sites found, how they're going to enter in an agreement to possibly protect them, put them outside of the work zone. That type of stuff will be between the applicant and the tribe itself. That'll kind of move us away from the county responsibility.
That's my understanding as well, Director.
Okay, thank you very much.
My understanding is that CEQA is a different issue. It's not about cultural and archaeological, it's about environmental. Am I misunderstanding this?
It includes cultural.
Oh, it does, okay.
That's one of the categories. There are 21 categories altogether.
Okay, thank you.
Cultural, tribal, biological, et cetera, et cetera.
So,
It covers the gamut.
well, let me ask you this. Would August 25th be a workable date for you?
I would actually like to ask that question of the tribal.
I was going to ask them
for
next.
Upper Lake. If we have to redo CEQA for this project, given what I know about it, given the small scale, and given that this is an extension, it's not an expansion, to my way of thinking, it probably wouldn't warrant redoing CEQA, but I don't know that for certain. If we have to redo it, it's quite possible that if we continue to August 25th, we may come back in here and say we need more time. If we have to redo the CEQA. If we don't have to redo the CEQA, I think August 25th is realistic.
I mean, from our end, why can't we make a decision on CEQA from our specific project versus the other two? You know, in the meantime, we can still put a stipulation with me personally meeting with the tribe or whatever, you know, whichever tribe it's, you know, responsible for that area and having them determine whether it's sensitive or not sensitive and using that as the deciding factor whether CEQA is even, applies because of the, we're not expanding whatsoever.
so-
And we have such a small footprint, it's, from where we are there, it's gonna be a simple walk-around site visit and, and they can give me the yay or nay. We know that this is not sensitive or this is sensitive, and we can kind of skirt some of the questions that I kind of got grouped into the other two quarries.
Right. Well, we're hoping that you and staff can accomplish those goals by August 25th. And by continuing it to August 25th, it gives our staff time to figure that out, for you guys to connect with each other in whatever ways you do. But it also doesn't require us to renotice everybody and go through all the hoops again.
So, I mean, from our end, there's not going to have to be a renotice, I mean, based on what we've decided today. Is that the?
Yeah, all we're doing is kicking it down the road.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to guess a meeting and a letter stating the sensitivity issues, if there is any, would be something that's going to be sent to the staff?
It's more of a process we're describing, sir, in that we will then know that you have established contact with the relevant tribe and have an ongoing understanding, rather than you presenting us with one definitive document.
Gotcha.
I think what my colleague, Commissioner Field, is saying is that this is our best way of offering you a date certain. However, based on Eric Porter's comments, that could change. But presumably, the second date in our second meeting in August would work for everybody.
Okay. No, that's fine. Like I say, it's, yes, sir.
Would it work for Mr. Geary?
I just wanted to kind of explain a little bit about the process and how it needs to be followed for the planning department's part in consultation.
Let's go to the mic.
So one of the things as far as for the process first when it happens is that basically the county is going to ask about a project, and that's the AB 52 notification. If we have any concerns, we get together, we let the county know or let the planning department know, yeah, we have concerns, we want to consult about it. They're there only to negotiate or to make sure that what's negotiated as far as the mitigation measures about how inadvertent discoveries are going to happen are put into the mitigation measures and what's agreed upon. They're also there to facilitate a consultation, meaningful consultation, both between the developer and the tribe to address the concerns that the tribes have. They come to an agreement that's within themselves. It has nothing to do with the planning department or anything else. That is, all established between the developer and the tribe. Just the mitigation measures that will go along with the project activities, that's what's put into the mitigation measures from. So that's really the planning department's only there to really facilitate that consultation has happened, that there's an agreement for this project and how it's going to be done. And that's basically it. But with that said, my question is, because this right here is actually for a categorical exemption. So the consultation would fall under AB 52 because we're talking about work that needs to be done. There needs to be a consultation about those concerns. So does this notification is this out the window, or are we going to get a notification so we can consult? That's my concern. I'm not too sure.
That's a very good question.
Yeah. So, because now it is falling under CEQA, and I know this because I've been doing a lot of outreach and training, I think, for the county itself. Understanding AB 52, understanding SB 18, that we kind of look at cultural resources as being archaeological items. They're not. They're broken into four things. Archaeological landscapes, sacred landscapes, gathering landscapes, those are cultural resources. Burials, burial-associated items, those are artifacts. I mean, those are one. Bodies of water in old village areas, certain areas, sacred places. These are all a part of the environment that fall under CEQA. So tribal cultural resources fall under four topics that are there. So with that said, I mean, I just wanted, to let him know that right where the actual pit is, there's a confluence of water. Traditionally, culturally, tribes usually put their villages right in the middle of that confluence, right? Because you got water on both sides of you, need water to sustain, the village. Those are the things that happen. So because it's there, for us, the body of water is definitely a cultural resource. The confluence area is definitely a place that we deem sensitive because more than likely you're going to find things. With that, also said that, there was also a pit that's also been dug prior to us even being there. So we don't know what's been found. It's also in this area where, the body of water is running. So erosion happens from upstream, comes down, and we found it. And when we were getting ready to do a project down there for levee maintenance, there were items that were actually in the middle of the creek. And it's just from erosion. Water makes its own way. So these are the things that kind of spike us to look at an area of sensitivity, why we should be out there, what it's going to take for us to make sure that this development also goes through, what maybe we might have to alter, or hey, what do we need to do to make sure that we protect and preserve those things? If it's maybe having someone out there while they're working, whatever it takes, right? Have an archaeological survey, I don't know. But those are conversations that happen during the consultation of like, hey, how are we going to mitigate this? So when dealing with CEQA, these are a lot of the things I think that we, as far as a tribal perspective, bring to the table of saying, okay, let's take a better look at this and figure out a game plan of how to still do the project, but make sure that these cultural resources are protected. So that's, and I look forward. So I gave him my card. I'm assuming I should get some kind of notification, I think, for consultation, and then we'll set it up both with the county and the developer, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
I think I need to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we continue this item till August 25th,
2022.
2022.
Second.
Okay, there's the motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah.
Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Okay. Item number 9. Okay. This is a public hearing on consideration of a parcel map to create 3 commercially zoned lots, file number PM21-31, and includes a proposed 1-year subdivision extension for Valley Oaks subdivision, file number SDX 22-01, and consider an inclusion under the original FEIR and addendum for a new categorical exemption to CEQA per section 15303 subsection C. The applicant, Valley Oaks Partners LLC, Keith Gopson, is requesting a division of a 47-acre commercially zoned property to create 4 parcels. 3 parcels being half to 1 acre in size, a plus 45 remainder lot parent parcel, and to add a 14-acre lot to the subdivision for use as a secondary vehicle access. The project is located at 18196 and 18426 South State Highway 29, Middletown, and is known as APNs 014-260-51, 36, and 24.
And legal notice has been determined on this matter.
Thank you, Jim. And it has been brought to my attention that this is also requesting a continuance.
That's correct. We have actually 3 different things that we're evaluating that are tied to Valley Oaks. I combined the legal notices to save costs. I'm kind of questioning that right now because there are actually 3 different actions that are going to need to be probably, one needs to be noticed, period. That's a modification that I have not brought to the Planning Commission yet. That would add a 3rd lot onto the total land area for Valley Oaks, and it would be used for an accessory access into the commercial part of the development. Getting back to the parcel map, we are requesting a continuance to August 25th on the parcel map. However, we are requesting a continuance to August 11th on the extension. The reason has to do with how the 2 processes line up and the discussions that we need to have on each internally. And so for the parcel map, staff is requesting a continuation until August 25th. So that way we wouldn't have to renotice this.
Okay.
And the next item, item 10, I guess it is, we're requesting a continuance to August 11th.
Okay, and I just wanted to make sure that I don't have an item number 10.
It would be file number SDX 2201.
Okay, yeah, this was, I think it was all grouped into,
It was on the legal notice.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Yes.
All right.
But we do need to separate them out. We're going to treat them as independent applications.
Okay.
And so that way it'll avoid confusing one with the other.
I'm a little uncomfortable doing that without Nicole. Can we just continue both of them to August 11th and take it from there with Nicole's advice?
No, we are not going to have time to, we can continue both to August 25th. That's fine. The August 11th date's not going to work for the parcel map, however.
Okay, I'd like to hear what the other commissioners think.
I'm not familiar with council schedule. Is she still away for our first meeting in August?
On the 11th?
Is that the point? Yeah.
Nicole will be here on August 11th.
I didn't understand my colleague's point about having Nicole here.
Oh, she's not here right now, and I'm questioning whether I can separate one item on an agenda into two different items and continue them to two different dates. That's all. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that's up to us.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'm sure that if we identify, since they both have, they are separate parts, we have the SDX, and then we also have the PM 1021-31. So it's my understanding that Eric would like to address one prior on August 11th, and then address that situation, get an answer on that, and then the remaining on the 25th, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Commissioner Field? Okay. It's okay. It's been a long day. Okay. I believe the sample motions they're already broken up. Is that correct, Commissioner?
I believe the first motion would be to continue to August 11th for the extension and the so-called item 10 that Eric referred to, and then the other would be to continue the parcel map consideration until August 25th. Is that correct?
Eric?
So moved?
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the subdivision ordinance provides for a 15 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 15th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Thank you, staff. Great job today.
I think one thing I'd like to add to that.
Yes.
Our director has the discretion of taking any of these Valley Oaks actions to the board. These were originally approved by the board, as I understand it, particularly the subdivision. And so it's very likely that what the Planning Commission would do is give a recommendation to the board. And that may apply to all three. I don't know the answer to that yet, but that may well be the outcome.
Okay, fair enough. And we will move on with office news. But I did want to give Jim a special thank you for standing in for Jake today. You did great. Sam?
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, guys. And Director Darby, hi.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes, Sam.
We did have one hand raised.
Is that hand still raised?
T. Anderson?
We've acted.
Yes, it is still.
I've already had a motion.
Sorry. I did not see this until just a moment ago.
Okay. If we're on office news, do I have to okay, is there still a hand raised? Is she still there? Does she still want to talk?
The hand is still raised.
Okay, so since we do have somebody, before I get over to office news, we'll open public comment.
Hello, actually I had posted, this was regarding number 8. My name is Tomasio Anderson. I'm the Robinson Rancheria Environmental Director. And I was waiting for somebody to acknowledge me online. This is during the discussion of number 8. And so since nobody had recognized my hand, I had put it in the chat within the time limit before the motion was made. But I just wanted to say just to add on was the Clear Lake Hitch is listed on page 6 of the Endangered and Threatened Species Act from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife for 2022. And that would require CEQA protections. And within that area, that the proposed extension or the mining is there. And then also, we have documentation that all the life stages of the hitch have been within that area this year. There's also the Sacramento sucker and Sacramento pike minnow, which are also culturally relevant within the adjacent stream area or footprint. And then Robinson Rancheria also has a property there deemed the woodlot within that's near that area. So I just wanted to state those things.
I apologize that I didn't see your hand raised earlier, and I do appreciate your comment. And did you watch the remainder of the meeting where we kind of came to an agreement as far as how the staff and the applicant are going to handle that in the future?
Yeah, but I just didn't hear anything regarding, nobody had mentioned the hitch and the CEQA protections as an endangered or threatened species.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think I'm pretty sure when they go over all of that, that the hitch and the native fisheries and stuff will be mentioned. So I do appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Madam Chair, can I ask, I think it's Tomasio Anderson. Can I ask him a question?
Sure.
Tomasio, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to send a notice out to the Upper Lake Tribe on probably all 3 of these mine extensions. Would you like me to send you a notice as well?
Yes. Well, yeah, and I think.
Okay, I was unaware that we needed to send AB 52 notices out on extensions, so that's totally my fault. I apologize for that. I need clarification from our legal counsel about when AB 52 notices are not necessary. This is not an expansion, it's simply an extension. But according to Robert Gary, he had some concern about impacts that are associated. So we're going to wade into that internally a little deeper. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and send you a notice on each of these 3 actions for the mines.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And again, my apologies. I didn't mean to overlook you.
No, I understand. I just, just in general, I know it's a simplistic way of looking at it, but with we try to protect every part we can to protect our lands and the lake, especially. And so all our actions that we do on the outside of the lake, at some point in time, go down to the lake because it is our lowest level in our valley area here.
Sure.
So I just in general, I know we try to separate things, but really everything impacts our lowest body water, which is our lake. And so just always think of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomasio.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. I'm going to officially close public comment. No, wait, before I officially close it, are there any hands in the Zoom room?
No, there are not.
Okay, I got the all clear on the Zoom room. We'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to Director Darby for our office news.
Thank you so much, Board, Commissioners. I would like to announce some new appointees or staff members that are joining us. And the first one I would like to announce, I'm very excited about, is Maria Turner. She's been hired as our Deputy Director for CDD. So that's very exciting. She's very capable in terms of knowledge of planning and management and leadership. So I'm excited to have her on board. Also, we have a new office assistant. You guys met today, Amaya Hammock, and she's working in planning. We also have a couple of offers out for a conditional offer out for a code enforcement officer and another assistant planner. So I'm excited about that. We just of yesterday, I apologize for the confusion with the tribal process. I just had a meeting yesterday with Nicole Johnson on the process and AB 52, and so that was going to be put in writing and given to staff. So that process will be a lot smoother. So I apologize for the bumpy road on that. And lastly, I would like to share with the board that I have officially submitted my letter of resignation, and effective November the 4th. But in front of you, I have shared with you my Phase 2 reorganizational plan, and it kind of just highlights where I have been working, where the department should go, my recommendations, and there will be a final plan that I will submit to the Board of Supervisors in the duration of my time. It has been a pleasure working with all of you, and I have really enjoyed myself, but I decided that I'm going to go home with my sons because I've been missing them, and they've asked me to come home. So for family reasons, I will be relocating to Georgia. Okay.
All the best.
Thank you so much.
Could I ask you one quick official question? What's the status of the revised cannabis ordinance? And is that something that we can look at as a broken out document at some point?
So basically, we had a presentation to the Board of Supervisors May 23rd, May 24th, and May 25th, I believe those dates are in there. We had 2 workshops in which we received comments from the cannabis industry as well as the community. And during the presentation, I requested that if we could appoint a task force. And so a task force of 7 members was appointed just this past Tuesday. And from that point on, the cannabis program manager, Andrew Emelong, will be designing times in terms of logistics of when they would meet and what the agenda would look like. But in the meantime, since we just did this on Tuesday, I will forward to you all of the appointees to the task force.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also had a...
Go ahead.
So I was, 2 of us attended the CCPCA conference last year in October. So I am now outreaching to our board for attendance in the conference. It will be on October 14th and 15th, 2022 at the DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel. Sorry, and pretty much there's a little here that they have on the website. It says, for nearly a century, the California County Planning Commissioners Association has been hosting its general conference in counties all over California. These events provide a unique educational and networking opportunity for planning commissioners from around the state, as well as planning staff, local elected officials, and others within an interest in planning. Our venue for this year's events will be in Pleasanton, California, and Alameda County, east of San Francisco Bay Area. Friday's conference event will be held at the DoubleTree Hotel by Hilton at the Club, where speakers will present on a variety of topics focusing on aggregate and building material mining, dams, and water management, a CEQA update, and training on procedures involved in your planning commission. There will, as always, be opportunities to meet and network with fellow commissioners from throughout the state to discuss current trends and best practices. On Saturday, participants will travel by bus to several stops on an all-day field trip that features a tour of the aggregate quarry operation, the Pleasanton Fairgrounds, the Sunnel Water Temple, and the Ruby Hill Winery. The bus will return through Livermore in the late afternoon. Finally, our Saturday program concludes with a banquet dinner dinner featuring a keynote speech. So I'm planning on attending. If anybody else would like to join, that'd be great. And I will also be reaching out to other
Neighboring counties,
neighboring
right?
counties.
Mhm.
I think I was appointed to like 9 or 10 of them that I have to reach out to. And even just getting one person from each county would be great. So the organizers want to have a really good outcome to this event, so.
And just to kind of echo that, Commissioner Chavez and I went last year, and the networking was great, just to kind of see what other kind of economical developments going on. And, you know, like I said, the networking, you know, we're all in this together. We all have a common goal of seeing growth and stability and community involvement. And if we can, you know, now that we know about it a little bit ahead of time, because I think the way that we found out about it was somebody called in on our Zoom and told us about it. Right. And it was in Eureka. And so other than that, if it's something you guys have questions about, feel free to, you know, ask Commissioner Chavez or myself. We can put you in the right contact and maybe do something together, so.
Yeah, and also with how we get, let's say, an attendance list of who is going to be planning on going, and how with the department to get it organized and to get the reservations done.
Yeah, yes, I think that would be great. I think last year that Kirian assisted with you, so that would be a task for Jim Feenan this year.
All right.
Cool.
You're in good hands, Jim. No worries.
Yeah, I think by September we have to have at least
RSVP or something?
Yeah, and so we have a little bit of time to get more details, and I can get more details to you, and just to see how.
For accommodations and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Cool. Thanks. All right. Well, thank you so much, and be safe out there. Meeting adjourned.